Hello, and welcome back to our weekly builder series where I, Danielle Palloschi-Browne, an investor agent, and my co-host, Raj Chemang, a developer and engineer. Raj basically teaches me how to build a house all the way from the ground up, and I ask all the questions that
That
hopefully you guys are most interested in as well, if you are not a builder, developer, or licensed contractor yourself. So this week, I'm pretty excited. Like, we finally moved into the phases of the construction where we are at like actually putting the house together, like the part that you see every day, not the parts that are behind the walls. So today we're talking about flooring. And
mhm.
while maybe that it either really excites you or terrifies you, we're going to go over some different types of flooring, some tips and tricks on when installing flooring and what kind of flooring you should install in certain places in different of the home, especially with different types of subflooring, depending on what kind of home it is. And also talk about things like tile, waterproofing, soundproofing, fireproofing, things like that. So Raj, where do you think we should start? Like, probably the most
Okay,
common thing is like hardwood floors, right? One of the most popular things we could talk about.
correct. The hardwood floor is very common, right? But all this flooring, you have to think about the applications and locations. Let's say if you have a kitchen or your family room, living room, dining rooms, what those are like main areas, like always, versus
High traffic.
bedrooms. Exactly, where's the bedrooms, where bathrooms, basement. Those are the different places. Then there's when you choose a flooring material, like you have to be careful, right? Give you an example, solid wood you do not want to install on a concrete because solid wood means it can absorb the moisture, right? And when
Yeah.
the basement, when you have a concrete slab, it has some kind of moisture. Whatever you do, I know that when you build that slab, you have that 4 inch gravel, you have waterproofing,
Mm-hmm.
vapor barrier we put underneath. But it's a fact that it's laying on the ground, there would be moisture.
Sure.
So
So
when you
even besides a basement, would you also say that should be true? Like, you might not want to consider like an oak hardwood product for like a home on a slab either.
yes, yeah, anything on the slab, you do not want to put a solid wood, not just oak or pine, any on a solid wood directly because the wood will absorb the moisture.
Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
something you have to be careful. So what I have seen again, I'm also learning, right? I'm sharing what I know. I'm not saying I know everything, but I'm also learning. This is a learning process. Um, until now, my experience is solid when you install on the slab, it will absorb the moisture. So what I have seen, some people really like a solid wood on a concrete slab. They can put plywood,
Mm.
right?
As
Let's
a
say water
subfloor.
resistant plywood, not just regular plywood. Regular plywood may also absorb. So just the plywood, then on the top of the plywood, you can just regular, like doing on the floor,
Hmm.
regular raised floor, you can install a hardwood floor, right?
Got it.
Um,
Now, does that just reduce the risk of the floor warping or absorbing the moisture over time, or does it really completely remediate the possibility of it?
I think I would not say 100% completely eliminate the problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it will definitely reduce the chances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, like I said, when you have the moisture, if the moisture is introduced in the wood, it will expand, right? In summertime and wintertime, that's a problem. In the summertime, we're cooling down the house inside.
Yeah.
Then when the wintertime we're heating, so in that case, you have expansion and contraction. That's why you see cracks all over. So
Mm.
even the so now we're talking about hardwood floor, right? We say hardwood floor, you don't want to install on the bathroom, of course, because in the bathroom you may spill the waters and moisture is
Yeah.
trapped in the wood, it stay there, and eventually that may, even if wood will dry, then you will see the crack and the separations in the floor, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
See
even
that a
on the
lot
hard,
in people that have hardwood floors in kitchens, like by their kitchen sink and by their refrigerator, sometimes by
yeah,
the
so
dishwasher.
That's true because and nowadays in our area, I see in the kitchen, it's pretty much almost all new homes we build.
Yeah.
We do hardwood floor, right? Tiles, you do in old construction, and also some homeowners have their own preference. They want to do tiles on the on the kitchen.
Yeah.
But in general, rule of thumb is you'll see hardwood floor on the kitchen also.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to remember in the kitchen you are not spilling water too much, right? There is no moisture. It's pretty dry. In the bathroom, you have to remember even if you don't spill the water, so you close the door, you're taking shower, you have a moisture on the room. So even if you run the exhaust fan, the fan can't do so much, right? That is smaller fan, like 24-inch diameter or 16-inch diameter fan. It's not it won't be able to suck all air up at the same time, all the moisture. So that's why in the bathroom you absolutely know. But the powder room, for example, if you have a powder room in the main level, we do hardwood floor, right? You are not really spilling water much, If you when you're washing your hands, maybe a little bit, but it's gonna dry quickly. That's okay.
Exactly. You don't have the shower. The shower is really the thing that causes the most moisture.
Correct. And same thing in the kitchen too. You are not gonna spill the water all over in the kitchen. And you maybe drop here and there, but that dries it quickly. So that's why I see in the kitchen area also a hardwood floor. But like you said before, especially in the sink area, and where the fridge is, because especially in fridge you see air ventilations coming in. It's running, right? Because so their locations, I've seen some hardwood floors sometimes warping or separated. But again, those are very localized and minor.
Got it.
Again, in the sink, right? How messy you are, how much what you.
I don't know. You'd be surprised. Like some people use their sink like the splash zone doesn't matter. But I hear that makes a lot of sense. So that's why you often can see floors, hardwood floors in kitchens now, especially nowadays.
Yes.
So what would you then recommend for basements? Because I've seen a combination of laminate floors being or luxury vinyl floors being really common, and carpet. Now, what are the pros and cons in using a vinyl product versus carpet? Because couldn't carpet also absorb moisture from a slab, just like wood would?
Yeah, it does, but it's not bad. You have to remember the basement is also a heated area. So in the house, you have a heated or controlled temperature area versus you have a garage, which is uncontrolled temperature, right? So it could be cold or dry or hot depending on the weather. But the basement, you have to remember, it's a controlled temperature. So it's not like, you have a carpet, but also installed directly on the slab. Doesn't mean it's cold, saying it dries up quickly. Let's say in the summertime or winter time, you're running heater. The heater is drying up whole house, right? To some extent, including your flooring. So with the carpet, you don't have to worry about it. With the carpet also, you have to remember it's not really fabric. I think it's some kind of, if it is cotton, maybe you do absorb, right?
Yeah.
It's more like polyester, some kind of
like nylon, kind of almost like water resistant. Because I've seen, and this is kind of a funny story, I've walked into a flip house, or a house that could have been flipped recently, and I saw someone who had left an iron, like a hot iron, like a clothes iron, on the floor, and it melted the carpet in the exact shape of the iron. That's how I knew it was like a burn mark from his iron.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I thought about that. I was like, if that was cotton or just cotton, it wouldn't melt anything.
No.
You know what I mean? Because fabric would just it would flatten just like a shirt, like a t-shirt would, or whatever you were ironing. But this actually had a burn mark. So there has to be some kind of plastic or nylon or wax or something. Some
vinyl product. No, I agree with you. That's why it's easy to clean. Even sometimes let's say you have a carpet in the bedroom, you spill water, you can easily dry, what I'm saying? If this cotton, it's gonna take forever probably. Even if you can clean or dry it on the top surface, but it's still on the bottom part, maybe it's still that layer of moisture. It may take, I don't know how long to completely dry, right? Yeah. So carpet, I would say I would not worry about it. So basement carpet is very common, So one of the things about in the basement, like I said, hardwood floor, you don't do it. I have some people do tiles, right? I've seen doing on the tiles, but the problem with the tiles is too cold. And winter time, the slab is already cold. Then you have a tiles. Usually, you feel cold when you're walking on it without any shoes or slippers. But most common is engineered product. They can do engineered wood, or they can do vinyl product, SPC product. Some of them very nice and exotic, water resisting flooring you can find these days. Even nowadays, Danielle, you can do bamboo floors, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice and exotic, and white flint. You can get 12-inch wide if you needed to, really wide flints in your planks. And also engineered wood now, you can find very nice and exotic engineered wood floor. It looks like hardwood floor, but better performance, because you have to remember engineered wood is like better compressed. So if you try to compress, you won't be able to do it with let's say, giving an example, with a pin, you try to poke. It's not easy for you to poke it if you would be doing in a solid wood, right?
Oh, like to dent or damage it.
To dent it, exactly.
Yeah, like so say you drop a cup, or your pets run, like say you have a big dog or something. That's one of the bigger concerns I hear a lot with hardwoods. I mean, you always can sand them down and refinish them, but like if you drop something heavy enough and you take like a divot out of the floor, you're gonna have to fill it with wood putty. Often it's really not that big of a deal, but these engineered products, they're much more resistant to that. Like you're not going to have to, every 3 or 4 or 5 years refinish your floors, which, I mean, that's kind of a big appeal for people. Like in the Northern Virginia area, I think I read somewhere, and don't quote me on this, but I feel like I definitely saw this in an article, that like we have the most runners per capita and dog owners. So there's a lot of people who have dogs who want to make sure that their house and their floors are going to be protected. Like this is a super common thing. And just like, it's not cheap to redo. It's cost effective to redo floors if you're moving into a home for the first time and you want to like sand them down, restain them, and save the cost on flooring, right? And like brand new flooring. It's not very cost effective if you have to redo these floors every 5 to 10 years. Because then you have to move out your furniture. You've got to like not be there for 3 or 4 days, depending on how much square footage you're talking about. Like it can be very inconvenient, and it can be, it's a definite extra expense to have to do maintenance wise. Granite I know I'm pivoting to countertops, but there's some thoughts on granite as well. And I think one of the biggest reasons people have moved on to quartz is because like you don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about it. It's not going to stain. You don't have to maintain it. While as granite can stain, especially with like water stains, and can sometimes absorb like bacteria and stuff because it's more porous than quartz.
Yeah, because it's granite, it's more like stone, natural stone. Think about this, and it has more porous than quartz. And so, yeah, exactly. That like you said, that's very, very true. You really have to understand the application. You have so many different products available out there. And hardwood floor, like I said, one of the things you want to do, if you are a contractor, you may already know. So if you bring a hardwood floor in your house, you have to keep inside the house for at least 48 hours. I believe that's recommended, at least 2 or 3 days. Make sure that hardwood is kind of balanced in the same temperature with the house.
Like new flooring, you're talking about. Like bring in the wood product in boxes, and you have to let it sit there for a few days to acclimate to the house. The humidity, the temperature.
That's the word I was looking for, acclimate. Yeah. So like you said, otherwise what happened is even especially in new construction, renovation project is a little bit different because house is already there, right? Yeah. But new construction, not to the wood, but you have other construction material inside the house. You all the doors and the windows and trims and drywalls. That's not still 100% like a balance, right? Acclimated with your inside temperature, which is usually 70 to 74, depends which temperature you like.
And we're assuming the HVAC is on, right? Yeah. Like key thing to note here is we've just because we've been talking about the process, right? And we're up to flooring. HVAC has been inspected. The HVAC system works. It's now running because you really don't want to install flooring in our area, the season, even without seasons, the temperature differential between day and night can be 20 or more degrees. That can really screw up your flooring if you do not have your HVAC going at all. Because it'll warp, like the temperature changes are so huge. And now if you install, I've seen this happen to other investors before, where they didn't want to pay to run the HVAC when no one was living there. And I was like, that is a very big mistake.
Yes.
Huge mistake. And they came back a couple of days after they installed all their hardwood floors, and they literally had uprooted. Some of the floors had completely busted open and detached from each other. Some of the little panels from the tongue and groove that they had installed. And they had to reinstall much of at least one floor. They didn't do the second level yet. And I told them, I was like, you have to run the temperature. You have to at least get it to 65 in here. Like this is gonna happen again, and that just probably cost you $6,000.
Yeah.
What would the heating cost you for the day? Like the month would cost you $300 or $400. Like
that's no brainer, exactly. Especially new house renovation. Make sure the HVAC is running. Make sure the hardwood floor. It's mostly the hardwood floor. Other tiles and carpet, it really doesn't matter, right? Because they would, even engineer would. So make sure that you give enough time, then install. Even after that, for new construction, you have to wait for a whole one season, because in the house you have winter, summer. Especially if we live in our area, we have 4 seasons basically. Fall and winter, fall and spring. So all that you usually, when we have a new construction, I tell our homeowners, buyers that, hey, please give whole 1 year and see how it goes. So what happens usually in the winter time, you will see the flooring start opening up, and the summertime is going back again.
Yes,
it's drying. So, and usually it opens up, and other season it closes. And I told him it's okay if it stays like that, then we can come back and fix it. It's too big. But this is it is. You have to remember it's wood. Okay, it's gonna have to have the moisture with the temperature difference is gonna, contract and shrink. But those are the things you have to keep in mind. And like you said, benefit of a hardwood floor is that you can sand and finish 2 or 3 times down the road if you needed to. You can change the color, right? Color of the flooring, stain. But engineered wood and other product, once you install. Engineered wood is there, so you can't change it. So there's some pros and cons. Even hardwood floor, like I said, oak. That's what we do mostly. Red oak, white oak. Those are good product. But then there's, I think, what is the other one? People do another one.
Probably espresso.
Maple, color, right?
Oh, yes.
Those are, my understanding, those are more softer.
Yes.
Than oak. So I've
the
heard
natural
that
wood.
If you are moving furniture or you're trying to drag across, you'll probably see the dent on the maple. But the oak probably is okay. Yeah.
For sure. Like if you have a bed on a maple flooring, and because you see this in carpet, right? You move the bed and you see the 4 little posts. That you could get some of that on maple. Now it's really pretty, and some people really like the texture of that, but you likely can find an engineered product that looks like maple if that's kind of the grain style that you're going for, but you're not going to have the same kind of issues with the indentations and things like that. Bamboo flooring, I would say, probably has been popular for maybe 7 to 10 years, something like that. Comes in like every color you could possibly imagine. It has a little bit of a texture, but if that's something you're looking for or you're interested in, that's awesome. And they're like indestructible, which is really great. And if you're into sustainability, bamboo itself is one of the most sustainable products that you could be putting into your home. Because it's just so readily available and it grows so fast. Unlike oak trees, which take like 200 years to get one beam out of.
That's a good point. Exactly. That's a very good point.
Depending on like the things that are important to you, there's a lot of products that are worthwhile, but not all of them are great in all spaces. So let's talk about, you mentioned tile. Like you're not going to have issues with tile in the temperature swings of a new construction house as you're building it, or even really a flip house. Because one of the biggest things you change when you're just cosmetically flipping a property is tile. Like there's backsplash tile, there's flooring in kitchens and bathrooms or basements, like tile is a really popular thing in, I don't know, at least 30% of the spaces in a house, I'd say. So what are things to keep in mind when installing tile? I would think size of tiles is one thing, right? Oh, and you even used tile recently on one of your new construction projects. You used really big tile around a fireplace, like huge scale tile. How big were those tiles each? 6 feet
That
or something?
was, I think, 4x8.
I mean, that's big.
Yeah, it's almost the size of plywood. Yeah, because what I want to do is I want to do big panels rather than a smaller stone on the fireplace. But definitely the white. If I have a budget, I could go with quartz or granite, big piece, one piece. But I didn't have a budget for that house. So, but I was talking with someone on home Flooring Decor. That's another thing. We buy a lot of stuff from Flooring Decor, and some of these tiles are very seasonal. They come in after 2 months. They don't become, they go away. I don't know, go out of style or whatever it is. So you have to keep in touch with them. And I work with someone there, and he is constantly telling me, hey, Raz, this is what I'm coming now. Okay, this is a big tile. This is the size. So that's kind of information very important. As a full-time or part-time investors or flipper, you have to build a relation with your vendors so that you don't have time to go to Flooring Decor or Home Depot every day to check out, right? But they work there.
Not always.
They would be happy to let you know, yeah. But one of the things about the when you install the tiles, exactly, make sure that you have a Durock cement board. I think you and I talk about it. There's some of the builders I've seen, big developers with the name and fame. They are installing tiles directly on a plywood, which is the stupid thing you can do, because after a few years, that tiles start cracking up. That's great.
Yeah.
But again, that you should never do that, right? Put a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch cement board, install it properly, and then you have a grab. You just mortar bed and grab. So what happened, especially the cracks you will see, if you see cracks on the tiles, means it's not properly installed, or maybe ground is not, or surface is not flat when you install it. So over time, when you walk on it, you'll crack. But usually that's very minimum. But what I see cracks is the joint, which is a mortar joint, and that happens the same thing somewhere in the winter time, because the mortar has, of course, the water and moisture. So as it's dry, it loses the moisture, and you'll start seeing cracks. It's almost like separation. So that's why at the end of the year, you go back and put it regrout again. That's the good idea. But that should not be that expensive. You can just go ahead and do it. You'll see a lot of those caulking, separations, and crack in bathrooms and trim work. Towards the end of the year is the same reason. Now everything pretty much dried up now. Now, if you go back and fix those things, very minor cosmetic things, now you should be good for a long time. Yeah.
Awesome. So how frequently really should you be recaulking in your bathroom, kitchen, shower area? I usually think like annually if you need it, but I would think every 2 years minimum. But tell me, am I like totally wrong in that, or?
No, you're good. You're good. The thing is, new construction definitely you want to do every year for a year to at least 4 or 5 years. But I know that in the regular house people don't really pay attention for many years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Until
it's a problem, like until it's cracking actively, or until you see mold or mildew. Usually people,
especially on the outside doors and windows, you have a separations at the joint, and even then you start feeling the air coming out from outside. That's the worst case scenario. I'm just exaggerating, but every year or two you should do it. Yeah, that's a good idea. To be honest with you, you can save energy and energy bills, because those are the cracks where you start losing all those energy, heating, cooling.
Well, and moisture too. Like I think about showers where people are like, oh, I had some leakage on the ceiling under a bathroom, but I don't know why it would be leaking. None of the tiles are cracked. The seam of where the tile meets the tub.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've seen so many homes, especially homes that need like small cosmetic renovations, or even ones for standard buyers that they would buy themselves, caulking, if you take that little bit of effort, one, a tube of caulk is very inexpensive. This is like a $5 to $10 expense, depending on how bougie you want to go with your caulk and what kind you get.
Yeah.
And it should probably take you 5 to 10 minutes to do this. Maybe a little more if you do painter's tape and make it like really clean looking.
Yeah.
But it could save you leaking, mildew, mold, tiles like moving or cracking because of moisture behind them. It's something that you should, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert in this, so you correct me, but we try to recaulk things probably every year. Like we look at outside, we check the window sills inside and outside. It also prevents, every year in the spring, we get a couple of ants, and that's like our cue to recaulk the windows and the doors. And
it's the time, yeah.
It's time to just go on the hunt for any tiny settling or whatever. And we found that was the best way to prevent any pests. But it also helps with our energy efficiency. Like we don't have any drafts, right? And it's protecting our windows and doors from moisture coming in and warping, the frames and things. So it's a very inexpensive thing to do. You may need a couple of different types of caulk for the different places I'm talking, like tubs. Typically, you're looking for more of like a silicone product. Outside the exterior window and door caulk, you can go to Home Depot. They have them all in a row, and they'll tell you exactly what they're for. But highly worth it, and it prevents. The goal of caulking is preventative maintenance. It's not for when you already have a problem. You could still do it to repair stuff, but if you're seeing mildew, that's a bigger issue. And you may even want to just see or talk to an expert to see if you have a mold problem, because mildew and mold can really look similar in a bathroom unless you're really trained in identifying it. Unless, do you have any thoughts on that, mold and mildew, which is terrifying?
Yeah, you're right. At least I would say in the bathrooms, at least in the shower area, I would say do caulking at least once a year, at least.
Yeah.
And other area, if you can do once a year, or you can do once in 2 years or so. But bathroom area, like you say, is very important. I've seen it many times. Happened to me also on my first home when I bought it from Toll Brothers. I didn't really pay attention. I was taking shower. We're probably, I don't know, caulking every year or two. But something I realized, even though you do, and there's because you're taking shower every day. So the little bit of water find a hole to penetrate through the cracks and eventually goes to the floor, and the plywood underneath, the plywood is decayed and floor's moist, then, and God knows, hopefully it's not that worse. In my house, what happened is so funny is that because my master bathroom is directly above my kitchen, then one day I just see the water dripping from the ceiling on the kitchen, right? And I said, what's going on here? Because you really don't pay attention in the bathroom. You take a shower, you get out. Don't take it out.
Yeah.
It's usually not that bright like other places. Then I realized, okay, it's dripping. Then we cut the drywall. I realized all the plywood, even some of the joists are almost decayed, like completely almost gone. If I had stayed like that, maybe the whole floor will collapse. You never know. It could be that crazy because water is very dangerous. Because the moisture will retain, not just like mold and other stuff, the whole that structural elements like your joists and beams, your plywood software can be decayed, then it could be a big problem. That can be easily fixed, like you said, doing caulking once a year at least.
Yeah, and prevent all of that, because now you're talking ceilings, possibly joists. Possibly removing the tile, because you can't take the subfloor out without removing the tile above it, and mold and mildew, which also would have to be remediated by a special company. There's no like spraying bleach on it and calling it great, and you have to redo some insulation because you just dripped onto insulation. So like what could have been saved by a $5 caulking job is now like a multi-$1,000 project, depending on the size of your space and exactly what you need to do. So there you go. Once a year, not a big deal. Very inexpensive, but really can have a big impact on your house. Plus it looks really nice when you do redo the caulk. Like it always looks very clean. It just, I don't know, it's a nice spring cleaning update to do.
Yeah.
All right. So
Nice,
then,
very nice.
okay, so we
Yeah.
talked about cement board under tile, and while that's really important, so then I think one of the last things we have to talk about is padding and carpeting. So, because we've talked about like tile and hardwood flooring, we talked a little bit about carpeting, but what else should we know about carpeting and installation? Because the places I see carpet the most would be bedrooms and basements, typically. Maybe like guest room, like family rooms or studios, things like that sometimes, or bonus rooms. But for the most time, I think it's just bedrooms and basements. The
I think
occasional bathroom, which don't do that. That's gross.
don't do it, right? Yeah. But you need to understand the carpet is definitely more warmer than any other flooring. So whatever you require in bedroom, maybe that's what you. And especially if you have kids, like I have two little kids, they're always running around, and that if they if they fell down on hardwood floor, it could be you may have to run to a doctor, right? It depends. It happened to me a few times. But the carpet is usually safe. So usually in the basement they put carpet is because it's warmer, and also if they have kids, they can go to basements and play things like that. Bedrooms, it's okay. I mean, you don't, that bedroom is you probably just go and sleep anyway. You don't really use all day, even on weekends, daytime, because in weekends on daytime you use the living room, kitchen and other areas. So bedrooms are, if you don't have a budget for pouring, again, you can do off carpet. There are a lot of carpet. One of the things about carpet is that it has a padding. So you make sure that if you don't have a budget for expensive carpet, you can do a good padding, because that really gives you a cushion. Like I think you and I talked about this one before, or
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, right. So there are some of the companies say, okay, we can do like $2 per square for carpet. Okay, that's fine. No, sounds good. And of course, we know there's no such a thing as nothing for something. You can't. I know that there's some price difference. Some vendors could be a little bit cheaper than another one, but it can be a sky and earth. It can't be that big a difference in price. We live in the same area.
Yeah.
So you just have to be careful and compare apple to apple. So like I say, if somebody said $2 per square feet, it is the best. Yeah, it's not getting best. Okay, so you have to make sure that what they're gonna do is they're gonna give you a thick padding for now. In a couple of years, that's gonna sink down. Like compressed, it looks like a solid wood now. You are walking not on a carpet. It's feels like walking on a wood or a stone. So. So that's what I'm saying. That's why make sure that the company you work with, they understand what's in the part. Padding is like you have 6 pound, 8 pound, 10 pound, and it's also the quality of the padding you can choose. But carpet is, again, nowadays with the carpet, it comes with so many different textures and colors. It's not just those fluffy thing. Commercial carpet is really, it's needed, like solid. You don't see even fur, right? Anything.
There's a lot of very short haired, maybe, or short bristled carpets that have very cool textured patterns in them, and they look quite expensive looking. And some of them are really not very. Some people really prefer carpet in bedrooms because they don't like to wake up and then stand on a cold floor. I hear that a lot. But sometimes people just like that it's soft and it's easy, because in your bedroom, likely, you're getting dressed or you're barefoot because you've just gone to the bathroom, that. Those are kind of the common things that people are doing in there. The other thing I've heard, though, the pros and cons of it. Well, one of the big pros that you kind of glanced over is it can be more cost effective than hardwood or vinyl products, for sure. But the counter to that is some people have allergies, or they are concerned about carpets causing flare-ups and allergies, especially when they're sleeping. So that's something to keep in mind. I'd say most buyers that I have spoken to prefer hardwoods in a bedroom rather than carpet. But I think that also can change depending on your price point. If you're flipping homes in Prince William County, Spotsylvania County, homes say $500,000 and less, I don't think you're really going to get a ton of pushback on there being carpet in bedrooms, as long as it's new and it looks clean and it's not a weird color. You don't pick lime green carpet or
completely dry, green or blue, right?
Something very you're going for white, creams, gray, something very utilitarian, right? But once you get to certain other price points, maybe, I don't know, $750 and up, I would say it's probably a little less desirable. $1 million and up, I think those buyers are really looking for more of a hardwood floor or vinyl product in their bedroom areas. Basements, I don't know. It's kind of it's a hit or miss. Carpet, though, if you're going to leverage that as like a flipping and development tool, I would say in your more cost-effective flips, you can get away with it. But the higher you go in price point, unlikely, and it'll probably bite you in the butt later on rather than be the cost savings that you think it's going to be. Like it's probably going to be a point of contention because buyers just see things that they want to change and they start adding that to the list, to the price point, or they chip that away on the list price in their head.
Now, if you are really concerned about cold in the morning, so now what we build, especially in McLean, I don't do on other places, but in McLean, pretty much all the bathroom we have heated floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is not that expensive when you think about it. It could be like a few $1,000s, and you can consider. I have one house I'm working on right now, and the buyers, he wants heated floor everywhere. Not everywhere means at least in the kitchen and all the bathrooms. So it's not that expensive. That's another consideration. Some people are really concerned about the coldness in the morning. For me, it doesn't bother me because actually you wake up. I need the cold. You step in so that I can wake up, you know? But some people are really concerned. I have this family we're working on. They're like, okay, it's cold. It's only things you talk about is cold, you know?
Yeah.
But if you have, you know, things like that, you can, the whole house can be 10, 15 grand, all the bathrooms, your kitchen can be heated for.
Oh, that's really not that bad. So do you have like an average price per square foot it costs in addition to any of the other flooring costs you have for like heated floors? Like an approximate, like, are we talking like $5 a square foot, $20 a square foot? Like, what do you think?
I've not really looked at it. Master bathroom usually like $2,025 for me. Other bathroom like $1,000, $1,500 per bathroom.
In what, like 100 square foot space?
100 is big, like 110 by 10. So that's 100. It almost looks like $2 or $3 per square feet. Because if it's a smaller area, it could be. If it's a smaller area, it could be higher, but it could be should not be less than $5 per square feet. Because it's more like a coil on the floor. You lay out. You just have. It's not that expensive when you understand it. You have the cement board, and then you put these coils in place, and you put the tiles and all that, and then the coils you just have to plug in with electricity. That's about it. And you have to make sure the guy who installed the tile is the guy who, someone with experience. Otherwise, you have to remember if that thing if that coil is broken in somewhere, the only way to find out is take the whole flooring out and redo it. That would be too expensive. So make sure so when I do that, I want to make sure the guy who's working is only one or two guys working and know what he's doing. Otherwise, you might be a problem. But again, these are the things you have to be careful. But it's not that that expensive. You can do it, even if not the whole house. Maybe you can do bedroom, master bathrooms, and stuff like that.
That's actually really interesting because I've had a few people ask me, like on slab homes, like one level homes on a slab, if it would be worthwhile doing it. And my answer is typically like, if it's important to you, then it can be. But how much do you think it can be in terms of like energy savings if you were to put it into a place like a basement, or if you did have a slab home and you were doing it across a whole slab? Like, because if you're heating from below, right, the feeling of warmth, I think, in your house, it might actually be more energy efficient. Or I could be making all of this up in my head. Poke holes in that hypothesis of mine, right? Like,
no.
Would that be helpful, or is it just like, did I make that up? Like, what?
It's a little. No, I think it does. I mean, to be honest with you, you're hitting the floor because when you hit the floor, the warm air, of course, come up. But you have to remember, you are not hitting this floor all the time, right? If you are not using the floor, you are not going to heat up, right? Things like that. So that's why I've seen people doing the entire basement. They heat up, right? Especially on slab and rest. You do it, but sometimes they even do segments. Okay, maybe this is the area part of the slab I use more often. So let's use this area and heat it when you use it.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't think it's so much of energy efficient saving for you, but definitely additional cost because you have to plug into your electricity when you use it.
It's true.
But again, these are some of the things that you can keep in mind, and you can do in your house and feel more comfortable when you leave.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can it only like a heated floor product, can that only go under tile, or could you put that under like a vinyl product? Is it safe under hardwood floors? I think probably not, right?
Yeah,
Or
no,
would you ever
hardwood
own
floor
that?
you should be able to do it because even the tiles, there's a way to do it. Sometimes it goes under the tiles. Sometimes they try to put at the joints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's different way of installations. Again, I don't know about hardwood floor, but you should be able to do it. Yeah, it's not like it's a like open cable. It has some kind of sleeve so that when it's heated, the heat is coming out, right, transmitted through the
Yeah.
sleeve. So it's safe. Otherwise, you don't want to walk on the cable. So to be honest with you, you should be okay in kitchen. Yeah, definitely. This house I'm working on, the kitchen is hardwood floor. So I'm thinking now, yeah, it should be okay
Like,
with
yeah, should
hardwood
I
floor.
do this under a hardwood
I
floor?
don't know about vinyl, maybe, but because vinyl might have a polyester or some kind of things with the heat, it can melt too much of heat. But hardwood and engineer wood should be okay in my mind.
Awesome. Okay, well, that would be good news. We can double check on that as well, just to see like what other products could this be applicable with. But I'm sure if you went to like a floor and decor place or something and you spoke to a salesperson, they could find out those answers for you as well before you went through the trouble of like installing all of this and then finding out, oh, the flooring I ordered, I can't utilize this with this kind of installation method. So you can always ask and give them a call beforehand, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So outside of that, is there anything? What else do we need to know? Like, is there anything else in flooring that is really important, or tips and tricks that you think would be really great for any of our viewers to know?
I can't think of anything. I mean, hardwood floor, engineer wood, tiles, carpet, right? Those are the basic things usually we do. You make sure that the guys who are installing, they know what they're doing, right? And especially when I work with the guys, I ask them to provide year warranty. So as a flipper, whoever you use, make sure that you have writing saying that, okay, all my guys in new construction innovations, I have 1 year of workmanship. It's included on the contract. So anything happen, even after I sell the house, I can go and my guys can go and fix it.
Yeah, because they have to warranty their work.
Yeah, and when you find a contract, make sure that find the right contractor. Make sure look at their, look at their product. What their some past projects. So other than that, if they know what they're doing, these are very simple stuff, right? If a flooring guy, tile guy, you should know how to install tile correctly. Making the difference between the good tile. One thing I can tell you that when I look at the tiles, I can exactly say this is a good tile guy or a bad tile guy. The way is that if the thickness of the tile or grout gap is little and perfect, this guy is good. And most of the guys is not like that. It's sometimes human being, they're tired, maybe they're hungry, so they just want to finish the project. So instead of going vertically straight and narrow, now you have like wobbling, and he said that means he was not doing the right job, things like that. So those are the things, especially people pay attention, especially as a spec home builders, what people look at the bathroom and kitchen. And if I don't do a good job on those two locations, I'm not a good builder. So I make sure to guys, when you install the tiles and the flooring and all these cabinets, do it correctly. These are the area people come and look at it, So, but like I say, just pay attention, use your resources. You guys have any questions, let us know. Like I said, vendors, Home Depot, Floor Decor, tile shop, they already usually have a design in-house. They will be happy to provide these resources for you for free, if you want to learn.
Wow.
But, use it.
take advantage of what you can, and don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not responsible to know all the answers. That's why I've been asking Raj questions every single week for like 5 months in a row.
That sounds good.
Well, this was great. Thanks so much, Raj, and I'm excited to talk again next week. And if you guys have any questions about flooring, flooring types, flooring installation methods, leave comments down below, and Raj and I will get back to you as soon as we can.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into our construction series, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.